at that time, Mahler and all, at least what they had in common is that they had a great faith in art, right? I mean, was part of the Wagnerian legacy. Art could do this and and even build bridges, etc., etc., etc. Now, I mean, this faith art is lost, right? I mean, it doesn't exist anymore. Katie, you are an artist on my panel. You are a great theater director. How do you experience it? I mean, to live now in a time we on the one hand we discussed Mahler, who was living at a time when everybody had great faith in art, and you are doing your work in a time where basically not that many people care anymore.
Yes, that is the case. It's very difficult, isn't it? Because everyone here has a wonderful overview, much more of an overview than I have on anything, because I'm someone who does very practical things. And my experience of the absence of meaning in what I do is experienced in the tiny details of what I do. So when I'm talking with a singer or an actor about how to make something, I can see that their impulses are no longer underpinned by morality, politics, philosophy. They're very much sort of concerned with issues of celebrity, issues of vanity, issues of disguising their stomachs or their breasts, or the main negotiations as someone trying to make things about ideas are the negotiations of the sort of trying to scrape off what capitalism has done to them. I'm trying to scrape off the nail varnish or the blusher or the fake constructions. So it's an interesting question about the absence of any belief that art can do anything other than allow you to escape for a bit into a sentimentalized, romanticized, gooey place. And so I just experience it in the tiny, tiny details. It sounds like for the conductor that he is surrounded by a lot more intellectual idealists than I am. I envy you that, you know, the fact that they would be actually interested in repositioning the order of a symphony in order to get a much more profound understanding of an artist's quest for clarity. That's really rare. I mean, really rare, you know. I wonder whether the audience had the same intellectual curiosity or not, but no audience would see the experiment twice, would they?
No, they will.
You see, this was the real tragedy for me of that experiment as you were describing it, because the privilege was that the musicians would really discover the meaning, but I don't know whether the audience would sit through the symphony twice, you know?
No, they would. I think they would love to.
Yeah, I'm saying that should be the next stage of the experiment.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that.
Yeah, it's good.
Right. Yes. But by the way, Stravinsky once said that for conducting one doesn't need intelligence. This is as Stravinsky said, one needs musicianship.
Yeah,
I mean, intuition.
Right. Yeah.
But it's interesting what art is. I mean, when I don't think it's true that there is no art. Do you really believe that?
No, not true. No faith in art.
Faith in art.
Well, yeah.
People come. I think what art does even today to people is that it takes them out from their everyday misery and allows them the possibility to look at something, to hear something which lifts them out of their little world of good and bad and what they like and what they dislike, and now they are out of that and can experience a different thing, and I think it will stay forever.
I agree. No, scusa, non è tutto perso. It's the only thing that remains.
Again, in 1900, there was any faith in art. You know, it goes back to your comment that and generally wasn't a nice place to live. In fact, Freud has this great comment at the end of his career where he said, I've lived in Vienna all my life, I've never come across a new idea here. That's so there's a similarity in the complaint to then and now. That in fact that this desire to make art or to appreciate it is done out of a necessity to look for something important, but the world is no simpler or easier then, or more full of value then than now.
Iván, the political support for art will remain as well?
I think it will probably move a little, and things get tired, I think. For example, in Vienna in this time, a lot of things got tired, and I think I feel something similar now when, the state reduces support for the arts and artists are shaking. But, when there is, if one would decide no more subsidy for the arts everywhere, I'm sure there will be somebody coming out of the woodwork and do something interesting. I'm sure.
I agree.
Something will happen.
And Kate, do you think that still art can have a political impact?
I think Peter Brook spoke a lot about this, whether Peter Brook, who's a great theatre director who's currently in France, not allowed to be in Britain, really. He said that the amount of time that an opera or a concert or a bit of live performance lasts means that it's not able in such a short period of time to unpack thoroughly any political or philosophical idea, because it's too short a period of time. So it can only do things in tiny little short little metaphors that may capture some meaning, but I don't think it can capture anything thoroughly political. And as I was sitting there last night, I was sitting there with your email in my head thinking, I've got to find the ethics in this musical structure that I'm listening to. Where is it? Where is the politics? Is it the horn? Is it the strings? Is it the quiet bit at the end? Where is it? I just couldn't find it. And in the end, I gave up, and I just sort of gave in to this amazing abstract sound. And I thought, well, it's okay. It's like I'm looking at Rothko paintings. Just go through this whole thing. You're looking at Rothko paintings. And then I became very interested in how everyone else was breathing in the room and moving in the room. And then particularly very interested at the end when everyone stood up, except for a young man next to me who looked very tense. And I thought, I must ask him. There was a sea of people standing. And I said, why? What's the problem? And he said, because there is no feeling at all in this concert, just notes. I looked at him, I thought, that's how amazing. I mean, I've just sat next to you and had a completely different experience. How can that be possible? And I got very confused by the end of the music. But I don't think that, talking really purely, that you can hear politics or ethics in the musical structure of a piece written at the time that it was written. I think it's an escapist event, listening to Mahler now, not a political event. I think listening to Nono is a political event. And so having made...
so then what's the difference?
Well, only because I think maybe I'm horribly literal, okay? I'm more literal. I think that Al Gran Sole Carico d'Amore or Prometeo are formally and musically more on the money politically, and I think the people who made those pieces were chasing a really hard-nosed political agenda. I mean, you can't watch something like Al Gran Sole without knowing that it's about women who fought for left-wing politics and the Vietnamese War, etc., etc. I mean, you can't avoid the subject. I mean, even if you don't read any of the librettos, which are in a whole rash of different languages, you can hear in the music much more politics, I would say. And maybe I'm horribly literal, and maybe you will disagree, but I didn't hear politics last night at all. It was beautiful what happened, beautiful.
I can understand that, but I think sometimes art can have an effect on those things. Maybe not in this case.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, I give one example. A certain type of art which is very objective, like Mozart's operas or Shakespeare's plays sometimes, where you believe the evil, where you don't take sides. And it's very often that people who think dogmatically before, or who believe in one party and hate the other party, or who are on one-sided, experiencing this wonderful view, somehow modify their thinking and are less radical about their ideas. Now that's already an ethical...
I think you're right, but the fact is that they come and sit in the seat and you adjust a minuscule thought in their head. The question is, how durable is that? For example, does it just last for the journey home?
Well, I know one durable example because, I'm sorry, just again, my family, there was a grand aunt and her husband. Now, they had a kind of on and off relationship. They weren't sure of each other, you know, and they went to see Così fan tutte by Mozart together in the 20s.
Not a good choice.
Now, what happened? No, it's wonderful choice, I think, really great choice, because it sort of took them through problems of relationships, and then they decided that it will not work to young people, and then after the opera said, let's talk, and then they married and lived together for 50 years. After Così fan tutte. I mean, really,
it's good, but it's not political. It's a humanist thing.
I mean,
it's a humanist thing. Is that?
I think
You think it's political?
No, absolutely.
The healing of the marriage.
Well, I think marriage is a very. I think. This is an interesting thing to talk about in the relative intimacy of this room, but I think marriage is the most political relationship. But I think that we have different definitions of politics. I mean, politics is obviously about certain big worldly political agendas, but politics is also about the ability to listen and to interact. So that I think that any act of listening is in fact a political issue because it's so complicated in the sense of that interaction, including the interaction, again, if it's rigorous, between an audience member and something as massive and as complicated as what we were hearing in the concert last night. So that in listening to that piece of music, I think that one is also, in a way, if Mahler's claims are right, and I'm very sympathetic to them, one is listening to the whole world, really, and to a certain kind of take on the whole world. I think your comment before about this contradiction of Mahler leaving the world behind in order to listen to the world, that's, in a way, a very crucial contradiction that explains something about the music. So that in a way, the song of the earth could be called the song of the world, really, because there's so much in it, and that I would say is politics. You know, it's abstract, but I think it's also politics.
Okay. We will listen to Mahler in 50 minutes from now. Please join me in a big thank you for this panel.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.